Denny Hamlin wins. Martin Truex Jr. melts down. So do a lot of NASCAR fans. And, well, let's just cover everything that happened because there was so much going on, and that's coming up next. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing good today. All right, let's jump right into the main controversy, which I don't think should even be the main controversy, at least as to why people are so mad. But Denny Hamlin wins the race at Richmond, his home track, in front of his home fans. And for once, there was actually some more cheers, maybe 50-50, more cheers than boos when he won that race. But there was some controversy, so let's get into that. Did he or did he not jump the restart? That is the question, is it not? So from one side of it, it looks like, at least the people that are upset that Denny Hamlin won, they think that he jumped the restart. He got an early jump on Martin Truex Jr. Martin Truex Jr. Himself certainly thinks that as well. And we don't have SMT data, so we don't know if he jumped it or not. But I would say, in my opinion, it's 50-50 because the Denny Hamlin fan side of it, if you're a Denny Hamlin fan, you could easily argue that was Martin Truex Jr. playing games? Was he dragging the brake? Was he asleep at the wheel? You know, did that late caution throw his concentration off? And was he just so upset? You know, was he dragging the brake a little too long? You know, what happened there? You can easily make the other argument that way, and we're not going to know, honestly, until SMT data comes out and they line that SMT, because we have timestamps and time codes on the video and, of course, on the SMT data. So you can overlay it to see exactly when Denny Hamlin actually got on the gas. Was it before or after the line? And then, of course, there's the other argument to this as well. Do you want this particular call to be balls and strikes? Like in Major League Baseball, it's up to the umpire. What is a ball and a strike? Essentially a judgment call. Do you want NASCAR to continue to have this as a judgment call? And the other side of it, of course, is do you want it electrically timed like they have on pit road? Whereas, you know, once you cross that line, it'll immediately be, you know, a black and white issue. Did you gas up before the line? Did you gas up after the line? Do you want to go that route with this particular issue? And that being said, it's all clouded by, in this particular situation, who you pull for, in my opinion. And because of that, I'm going to make the argument that it doesn't matter what I say. I think that the people that think he jumped the restart are never going to change their mind that he jumped the restart, no matter how much data, SMT data, or anything else that comes out. Because even NASCAR said that he didn't jump the restart.
I'm curious. You guys see anything?
Yeah, we reviewed it. Yeah, we reviewed that. We looked at it. Obviously, the 11 was the control vehicle. It was awful close, but we deemed it to be a good restart.
And on the other side of that, I think it's also going to be equal if people think that he didn't jump the restart. No matter how much evidence or data is presented, they're going to think that he didn't jump the restart. So I'm just throwing my opinion out here, but I don't think I'm going to sway anybody's opinion because I feel like both sides are entrenched in what they think on this particular issue. Now, the Denny Hamlin jumping the restart, that was only one part of this particular drama from the Martin Truex Jr. camp. So Martin Truex Jr. also said that he got used up going into turn one by his teammate, and after that, you saw like all the emotion just come out. After that, Martin Truex Jr. got into Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson got back into Martin Truex Jr. after I guess the finish line and stuff like that. So we saw it just completely unhinge Martin Truex Jr., which the passion, he wanted to win this race so bad that you saw an uncharacteristic version of Martin Truex Jr., where normally a very clean race car driver, he was hitting anything in sight. In fact, after he roughed up Kyle Larson, he went and hit Denny Hamlin's rear bumper a couple of times after the race had ended as well. So if you're a Martin Truex Jr. fan, or if you're Martin Truex Jr., from Martin Truex Jr.'s perspective, I think that this is a much bigger issue, and I know the jump in the restart is getting all of the press today, which I don't understand, because if you're a Martin Truex Jr. fan, or if you're Martin Truex Jr., the bigger issue to me is your teammate used you up for a win. That's going to be the Monday morning conversation, or maybe the Tuesday morning. They might have took, they might have took Monday off for Easter or whatever. But the Tuesday morning or Monday morning conversation is going to be far more interesting as to how you race your teammates going forward. How does Joe Gibbs get this in line and under control? And does Martin Truex Jr., the bigger part of this, does Martin Truex Jr. finally turn heel? Has he finally had enough? Is he finally going to put his foot down and stand up for himself? Or is he just going to be the same Martin Truex Jr. that keeps getting run over by other drivers? This time it was Denny Hamlin, but we've seen him get run over by other drivers in the past, and he never retaliates. He's just like, I'll just race them harder when they get around me. That's going to be the bigger question. Now, me personally, if I'm Martin Truex, from Martin Truex Jr.'s perspective, because I'm going to get to my perspective on what happened here in just a second, from Martin Truex Jr.'s perspective, I think you have to stand up for yourself. Enough is enough. You have got to start fighting fire with fire. You can no longer just be this nice guy that you let people run over you all the time. You need to make a statement, and the best way to make that statement would be to send one of these drivers, in this particular case, Denny Hamlin, into the wall as soon as possible and ruin his day, just to show every other driver in that field that the old Martin Truex Jr. is done and gone, and the new Martin Truex Jr., if you hit him or bump him or anything like that, he's going to hit you back. So that, from Martin Truex Jr.'s perspective, I think is probably the best way for him to proceed going forward. That being said, I don't think Martin Truex Jr. cares anything of what I have to say, and he's probably not going to do that going forward. He's probably going to continue to be the same guy he is, and he's probably going to continue to go out there and race clean and try to win championships that way, and hopefully he can get it done that way, because nobody wants to see a ton of rough driving. You want your driver to be himself out there, but from my perspective, now, I gave you what I think Martin Truex Jr.'s perspective was. From my perspective, what I saw at the end of the race was there was 2 laps to go, and Denny Hamlin wanted to win this race. So from that perspective, I think it was just a racing deal. I think this whole ordeal was just a racing deal. The contact, whether or not he jumped the restart, it's just a guy trying to win a race with 2 laps to go in the race. And I got to say this, the only reason that this is a big deal is because Denny Hamlin won. I'm going to throw this out here. If Chase Elliott had done the exact same thing to Denny Hamlin, I feel like this whole conversation would get reshifted and reshaped into Chase Elliott either outsmarted or Chase Elliott got the best restart of his life. Chase Elliott was doing what he had to do to win the race. So I think it's very, the way these controversies usually go, it's very dependent on who wins the race, who created the controversy. For the longest time, Ross Chastain was this huge villain, right? That's because it was Ross Chastain. Denny Hamlin wins this race. It's unpopular, so this was a negative thing. This was a horrible race. Denny Hamlin cheated. Denny Hamlin roughed up his teammate. That's how it's going to be portrayed, because most people, if you go to the racetracks, Denny Hamlin gets normally more boos than cheers. He's just one of those guys, so that's going to frame that. Whereas if a guy like Chase Elliott had done this, or, somebody else, let's say Dale Jr., let's throw Dale Jr. out there. If a popular driver had done this, it totally gets reframed as, oh, he outsmarted him, oh, he outdrove him, best restart of his life, oh, he did what he had to do going into turn 1. He was getting back at Denny Hamlin because Denny Hamlin had roughed him up in the past. It gets framed a completely different way. And that's the thing with these judgment calls, the fans, they judge it off of who won the race, not necessarily what rule was, violated or anything like that. If, in fact, a rule was violated at all, like I said, I want to see the SMT data to see if Martin Truex was dragging the brake or if Denny Hamlin actually jumped the restart. I want conclusive evidence as to what happened before I say definitively, yes, Denny Hamlin jumped the restart, or yes, Martin Truex Jr. drugged the brake. And by God, believe it or not, that was not the only drama in this race, because Kyle Larson and Bubba Wallace got together. Kyle Larson had to check up, and Bubba Wallace got into him because he wasn't going to lift into the race. You got to go for it. I understand it. I think it was just a racing incident, but because of the 2 drivers involved, once again, it became a controversy. And not only that, the controversy, of course, is did Bubba Wallace wreck Kyle Larson, or did Kyle Larson get loose? And I say the answer to both of those is yes. Yes, Kyle Larson got loose. Yes, Bubba Wallace did wreck him. And that being said, because of the 2 fan bases that typically like to snipe at each other on social media, because of that, it became a bigger thing. But to me, that was just another racing incident. It's the end of the race. Nobody is giving, everybody is taking. So to me, it was a racing incident, and I think this probably would have been blown up into another level if, after the race, Bubba Wallace hadn't actually came over and apologized and said he was in the wrong.
It was like a net positive. That wasn't intentional. How do you know that?
Yeah,
I got loose and corrected into you.
It all worked out for me.
I know it netted you, and karma. It caught up to me.
It's all good.
Sir, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
So you saw that, Bubba Wallace taking blame for it, saying it was 100% his fault. So there you go. That sort of ends that controversy. Thank God that one is done and over with, except it doesn't end the controversy, because some people think that because Bubba Wallace drives for Denny Hamlin, that he brought that caution out on purpose. He was trying to help his boss. And for that to me, that is about as far out there as you can go as far as reaching for conspiracy theory type stuff. Because for Bubba Wallace to know that Kyle Larson was going to get loose and then go up there and bump him and finish off the deal, that there's a lot of things that have to happen for that to play. Like for him to be thinking about, oh, how do I help Denny Hamlin in this situation? I don't know. But a lot of people do believe that, so maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not. But I just want to throw it out there that some people thought that Bubba Wallace did it on purpose, and it is race manipulation trying to help out Denny Hamlin there. But believe it or not, aside from all of that drama, guess what? We had an actual race, so here is your top 15. Denny Hamlin wins the race. Joey Logano finishes second. This was a big finish for Joey Logano. This gets his season back on track or saves his season. Either way you want to look at it. Kyle Larson recovers from that spin with Bubba Wallace to finish in third place. Martin Truex Jr. winds up in fourth. You got to understand how dejected he is. You can see how much that win meant for him. So that fourth place finish, although it's a good finish and he does take the points lead, he's still not happy about it. Chase Elliott ends up in fifth. C. Bell ends up in sixth place. Willie B in seventh. Brad Keselowski in eighth. And ninth place is his teammate Christopher Buescher. So good run once again for Roush Fenway Keselowski. And also a good run for Ford. Several Fords in the top 10 here. Tyler Reddick ends up in 10th. Josh Berry, good run for Stewart-Haas Racing in 11th. Noah Gragson, his teammate, in 12th. Good finish for Noah Gragson. That helps him get rid of some of that points penalty that he is suffering from. And a back-to-back good run for Josh Berry. So good day for Stewart-Haas Racing. And then Bubba Wallace ends up 13th after that spin. He had a issue in the pits. Looked like the right rear tire. Lug nut didn't get on, so that cost him a lot of positions. He restarted 16th. Only was able to get up to 13th. Eric Jones finishes 14th. Didn't hear much from him all day, but he does end up with a nice finish here. And Ross Chastain was an absolute menace there trying to stay on the lead lap. It looked like he was going to allow Joey Logano to get into the conversation for the win before that late caution came out. Ross Chastain, for all that effort, ends up 15th. So that was the good race. But once again, we've got even more controversy. People were just very angry after this race. I wasn't one of them. I just thought it was a really good finish to a race that was kind of so-so. But a lot of people were angry after this race. And one of the things that they were angry about, drama point number 4 or 5, I guess, at this point, NASCAR race controls. We've already talked about the early restart or whatever controversy, but that was not the only controversy because NASCAR started out on the wet weather tire, the damp weather tire, and they started the race out good. That was great. We were able to start the race early. However, they mandated the caution, and that caught a lot of controversy, because, and from myself included. If you let them start with wet weather tires, you should give the teams the option as to when they want to put slicks on. I thought this was an absolute terrible move from NASCAR. They should have let the teams pick. They shouldn't have thrown a mandatory caution. And not only that, but after NASCAR threw that mandatory caution, because that ruined the strategy of that, after NASCAR threw that mandatory caution, there was 18 to 20 laps worth of caution because they had to dry pit lane. Now, pit road, whatever you want to call it. Now, if you're going to go out there and race, you need to have pit road already dried off and cleaned off so that they can make their pit stops or whatever like they normally would. I just don't understand this. Like, that should have been taken care of. Or if you need to dry it off, throw the red flag and dry it off. Don't waste laps under caution. So that right there disrupted the whole flow of stage 1, and then the regular stage break caution for stage 1. Then you had the stage 2 caution. The early part of this race was just so disjointed and nobody could get into a rhythm that it just completely, to me, ruined the first half of the race. So NASCAR caught a lot of flack for that. But hold up. You know what else? The Kyle Busch caution. That was the chintziest caution I've ever seen in quite some time. Kyle Busch looks like he cut a tire or something, but he didn't. As you saw, obviously, on the video, he goes up and barely touches the wall and keeps the car going. NASCAR, Johnny on the spot, threw the caution for that, right? So a lot of, and it was a BS caution. There's no way around it. That one, to me, is cut and dry. That was an absolute BS caution. So NASCAR also caught a lot of flack for that. So that's what I'm saying. Those 3 issues right there are going to make race control and NASCAR look terrible for this race. And this is a Debbie Downer. But the only thing we can say about NASCAR is they are consistently inconsistent. And that's what I'm saying about the restart deal. You can't really say that it was the worst call of all time in NASCAR because NASCAR is consistently inconsistent with those restarts. We've seen those restarts called. We've seen those restarts not called. This time it didn't get called. And, of course, the issue got blown up bigger because a lot of people do not like Denny Hamlin, and so this became a much bigger issue. And, of course, he got the win because of it, so that adds to it. You've got all kinds of multiple things going on to make this a bigger issue than normal. But I guess going forward, we're going to have to look at every single restart, and does NASCAR call it or do they not call it? Does it go to a black and white call? Do they electronically time it? Or does it continue to be a judgment call, balls and strikes type of call? We'll have to see what NASCAR does going forward. All right. This has been a long one. A lot happened in this race. Sorry that this video is probably going to be super long, but that is all I got for you on this one. If you want to subscribe, I would much appreciate it. If not, I'll keep making these things. If you're already subscribed, you know I appreciate you all as well. If you've got a question or comment or just want to rant or get your frustration out, I know I'm going to take a bunch of L's because my opinion is probably not the most popular one, but I had to put it out there, and I know I'm not going to change any minds. But yeah, leave it down in the comment section. I'll try to get to as many of them as I can. And if you want to help out the channel, the merch store, the link is in the description down below. And other than that, thanks for your time. Peace.